The Emotional Vocabulary Series by Duenas. Today we will be addressing the emotion of disgust. What triggers our sense of revulsion, and why does it play such a crucial role in our lives? Dive into the emotion of disgust, its roots, its impacts, and how it shapes our decisions. Introduction. Disgust is a powerful emotion that evokes feelings of aversion or revulsion, often triggered by unpleasant sensory experiences or moral violations. While it can be unpleasant, disgust plays a vital role in protecting us from harm, such as spoiled food or unethical behavior. Understanding this emotion helps us navigate its influence on decision-making, relationships, and societal norms. Including disgusted in our emotional vocabulary fosters awareness of how this primal reaction impacts modern life. Definitions of disgust. Layman's definition of disgust. Feeling disgusted means experiencing a strong sense of aversion or repulsion towards something perceived as offensive, harmful, or unacceptable. Clinical definition. Disgust is an emotional response to stimuli perceived as toxic, contaminating, or morally repugnant, characterized by physiological reactions, like nausea or a desire to distance oneself. Perception and expression of disgust in everyday contexts. Disgust is expressed through facial expressions, avoidance behaviors, or verbal expressions like gross or revolting. It often reflects an instinct to protect oneself or one's values. Origins of disgust. Evolutionary roots of disgust. Disgust evolved as a survival mechanism, protecting early humans from consuming spoiled food, encountering pathogens, or engaging in harmful behaviors. Cultural dimensions of disgust. Cultural norms determine what is considered disgusting. For example, certain foods or practices acceptable in one culture may evoke disgust in another. Biological mechanisms of disgust. Disgust activates the insula, a brain region associated with sensory processing and emotional responses, triggers physiological reactions such as nausea, increased heart rate, and withdrawal behaviors. Effects of disgust. Effects of disgust in our psyche. Disgust influences moral judgments, often fostering strong opinions about right and wrong. Effects of disgust in our daily life. This emotion shapes habits, such as avoiding certain foods or practices perceived as unclean. Effects of disgust on our family and friends. Disgust can create tension in relationships, especially when personal boundaries or cultural differences are involved. Effects of disgust in our workplace. In professional settings, disgust affects interpersonal dynamics, such as reactions to ethical violations or workplace cleanliness. Effects of disgust on our freedom. While disgust protects against harm, excessive sensitivity can limit freedom by fostering avoidance behaviors or irrational fears. Examples. Personal story. A person feels disgusted after discovering mold in their home, prompting a deeper commitment to cleanliness and organization. Societal behavior. Disgust towards social injustices often fuels activism and calls for reform. Historical event. Public disgust over poor sanitation in 19th century cities led to significant advancements in public health systems. Challenges in mental health to deal with disgust. Excessive or irrational disgust contributes to phobias, OCD, or social anxiety. It often creates barriers to emotional recovery and fosters feelings of isolation or fear. Management and mitigation. Strategies. Exposure therapy. Gradual exposure to disgust-inducing stimuli reduces sensitivity. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, addresses irrational disgust and fosters healthier coping mechanisms. Mindfulness practices. Techniques like deep breathing help regulate physiological responses to disgust. Resources. Support groups for phobias or OCD, counseling services for addressing excessive disgust, educational resources on emotional regulation. Conclusion. Disgust is a natural and protective emotion that influences our decisions, relationships, and values. By understanding its triggers and impacts, individuals can navigate this emotion constructively, fostering resilience and empathy. Emotional intelligence around disgust empowers us to balance instinctive reactions with rational thought, creating a more nuanced and fulfilling life. This was The Emotion of Disgust, from the Emotional Vocabulary series, by Duenas.